Beautiful ladies coming one after another. Hello, it's Takashi here. This video is on the October 2023 featured light novel lineup. There are lots of works I'd like to introduce, so do check it out. This time, the priority is on Dengeki Bunko, which will be released on the 6th on October. I'll be introducing these to the people who are new to light novels, as well as the people who have been reading light novels with an honest interest. Letting them know is also a trigger to making them read. I would be happy if you could support till the end of the video, so let's do it now. Firstly, this is Buta no Liver wa Kanetsu Shiro or Budariba, the story of a man turned into a pig volume 8. Yes, it's finally the 8th volume, with the story heading to its climax. Regarding the series, it hasn't been sold well recently, despite won the gold prize in the 26th Dengeki Novel Prize in 2019. Quite concerned yet worried, but still, it delivers some good isekai stories, if you're a hardcore isekai reader. The story this time, the rift between the dynasty and the Liberation Army only deepened, and Shruvi's challenged not to a duel. The only ones that can stop them is Jess and the pig. I can either sense it will be either a bittersweet climax or somewhat deeper than that. Either way, it has me taken into a suspense. With 2 more volumes heading towards the end, I wonder what will happen to Jess and the pig? Only time will tell. The anime, however, will airs this October 8th, with project number 9 animating the series. It assumed to cover volume 1 and maybe volume 2 of the story, which I quite really looking forward to. I would not go into further details of it, but we'll watch how it handles the production soon. If you're an isekai reader, do check this series out. Strike the Blood Append 4. This is the 4th side story volume of the series, in which some didn't feature in the main story. The 3rd one wasn't as half bad it would be, having the fluffy side of Yukaina being featured in it. The 4th one this time, with 3 stories as usual, Kojo and Yukaina head out to investigate an underground waterway that is said to be haunted by ghosts, but they end up in the uninhabited and ruined Gengami Island. Meanwhile, Yukaina and Shizukuri meet by chance at a popular ramen restaurant, compete over something over the old castle, and try the famous spicy menu, and Sayaka and La Folia were caught in a trap by an evil god worshipper while investigating Death City. That being said, I think this can be quite the most interesting short stories made, after Append 3. Regarding the series, I wish that it would be more open to every readers across the world, since the recent Chinese ban in 2015 due to several reasons. Avid readers of this series must check this out. Next in the lineup, Sword of Stallion 2, the strongest knight called the Stallion, ordered to cuckold the princess of a neighboring country. Whenever I heard the word cuckold, it really goes wrong in my brain. Felt odd. I would likely say it's the fetishist work that Gakudo has did, aside from hollow regalia, but still has its ways of getting entertained. The story this time, the heroes were assigned to Princess Tashina of Sharjia, who is being targeted by assassins from the Empire. Meanwhile, agents released by the Registan Empire have begun to make moves in the capital. It does seem a little fetish from the start, but with some action mixed in it, it's still worth the reading. I do expect a manga adaptation for a bigger picture soon. If you're into harem but with action, then this fits for you. Next, is the misunderstood saintly life of a villainous scion. I just want to do whatever I want in my second life volume 2. Stories nowadays is now like more moving to a wealthy family type genre, something that is rare in Dengeki Bunko but has done with other labels. For some reason, I misheard scion as in Siscon. Had me laughed for a second. The story this time, the boy was being forced to join the school magic competition due to the school principal of his school. But due to his villainy habits, his path to destruction was backfired, and the girls in that school idolize him and wants to have affections. Fantasy scion genre stories was barely used in novels, only being in manhwa and visual novels. However, the stories in this volume this time was quite an example of how scion was being pictured, with overpowered feats being showed. A scion story with an evil lord but being idolized by girls left and right? I want that gift to be given. If you're harem with even simple level of fantasy, then you should try this. The Assassin Who Reaches to a Rom-Com Volume 2. This ongoing series was written by Rakuda, who's famous for the school life romance story Orisuki. The author now went for an assassin school type story to write for, after just done with idle-type stories. What a amazing run he had. As for this series, I had a look at Volume 1. It was quite simple, but still deliver its mix of romance and action, despite its tiny flaws. In Volume 2, Emma Otori remained fake lovers, as she also became an intelligence officer for the Kogo group, with an assassination plan to the group as well to help Shino. This is somewhat quite an interesting series, simply just with Rakuta-sensei written make it more twisty. And with that, Rakuta has written 3 works, including Shine Post and Orisuki. Although I had concerned about Season 2 of the series. Wonder when we'll get updates? Only time will tell. This can be my next reading bucket. Will be considered to buy this. Kono Saishin ni Wayura ga Aru. Volume 2, this is a youth romance story, which has been on the radar of new romance genres. At the end of July, the Ome High School Student Council's summer vacation is a little different. Natsuhiko and his friend's job is to complete the dry run without incident. All of the sudden, the class idol Rumi Shinshichi suddenly appears. Youth life stories can't be getting better than this, with sexy girls in summer vacation period. Of course, it's the summer. Anything can be happen. Girls going to the beach. Doing laundry during the hot days. Anything can goes. This series can be a potential. If it sails well, I wonder it could debut a manga adaptation as well. If you're interested in this, do check this out. Next in the list is the new magical fantasy story, Akuten Meijo ni Isekai Saikyo no Kabetsu Shido O. English title, The Strongest Individual Guidance in Another World from the Red Dot Witch. This, in fact, is a pure fantasy story that doesn't, for now, involves love or harem. Just pure magic and fantasy. The story starts with Maleficium, the Forbidden Area Magic School. Everyone knows about it. Everyone aspires to it, everyone dreams about it, but it's an extremely difficult school for witches, where more than 99,999% of girls across the continent experience humiliation and setbacks. Witch apprentice Vioja Motostruki is also one of the girls who dreams of becoming a witch. She has an answer sheet with a score of 0 in her hand, and at this rate, passing the exam is a dream come true. However, she has a helper she can rely on. Being a witch can be plain simple, but you hired a strongest tutor for help? That's plain genius. Speaking of this new series, her character design reminds me of Konosuba Bakuenwa, minus the hair color, and that what has me intrigued me. It seems witch-focused stories is hardly being featured in this lineup, something that must be needs to being up on in future releases. We'll be wanting to reading this soon. And last but not least, another new story, It's So Sweet When I Marry My Organizations as Nemesis. This is a story of a assassins turned rom-com. It does seems pretty similar with other rom-com stories, but still needs some improvements. It starts with 2 professional killers and hunters, spending their prime days, killing for the organization they worked for. But after the organization was disbanded, they somehow started dating and even got married. However, her husband had only one problem. That means he has never slept with his wife. In short, he is still a virgin even though he is married. It does for a fact really looks fluff in terms of story, but still got me thinking in circles. A husband that has never slept with his wife labels as a virgin? Quite a thought that need to be processed. The character design however looks like a mix of housewife and corporate people, with some yakuza in the mix. I wonder how the author will be able to balance this. But so far it does seem quite enjoyable, so maybe would give this a tryout. If you'd wanted rom-coms but with retired workers, then you'll to check this out. Next, from Katakawa Books, where there are 2 new series that I particularly want to introduce. Firstly, Kusuri Yuri no Seiho and Zai Datsuho sa Reta Kusushi wa, Henkyo no ji de Shiaways ot Tsukumu. English title. The medicine seller saint, a pharmacist who was exiled due to a false accusation, finds happiness in a remote area. This is another medical fantasy novel, with a slow life story in the mix. A medicine seller finds happiness? Seems very similar, yet heard before. The story begins with Kuna, a magician who was considered incompetent and oppressed, is abandoned in the forest of death for a crime he did not commit. There, he was guided by Roy, a wolf he met, and arrived at Wes, a town where the legend of a saint is passed down. Kuna falls in love with Lucas, an adventurer who happened to save his life, and learns the joy of helping people as a medicine man. It seems slow life stories are getting even more attractive titles these days, as Isekai is heading a little downhill. But with these long titles, it does hardly tell if this is an Isekai or a slow life story. Really unbalanced. Before then, an apothecary, now a magician turned medicine seller. What's next, I wonder? Another bucket list of new intrigued stories to read it seems. Tensei site Reizabosu ni Nakstu ta Kido, Danzion de Ryori Yahazai Masu Tatakai Taku Nai Node Buken Saya wa Omote Nasi Si Masu. English title: I was reincarnated and became the final boss, but I'm going to start a restaurant in the dungeon I don't want to fight, so I'll entertain adventurers. This is another food isekai story, also with slow life elements in the mix. The story begins with Suda, reincarnated by the goddess as the final boss of a dungeon in another world. But due to his kindness, he doesn't want to attack adventurers. Instead, using his cheat skills to cook for adventurers. Another food isekai story. Many has done it. Some succeed, some flops. I do, however, notice this is just a one-shot, so I do think there is a closure to that. Being a cook in another world is just getting better and better. Next is the final series. Yusha Party was Suiho Sereta or Dejie, or Kara Sudat Kurita Yuda Yureshiai. Nano Daisejo, Omi Ni Ot Korarit Wakamura Noda Gie. English title: I'm glad they kicked me from the heroes party. But why are you following me, great saintess? Volume 7. This is the final story from Wrench Hatsu. Yes, it has reached its end. The hero is no more being outcast but now a king, with the throne. But before that, he has FO fight the final enemy in front of him and the final boss, the godly gold dragon. It does expect it to end actually, but at it end in a satisfying ways and not being stuck in cliffhanger. However, I do expect the manga adaptation to continue to follow up its story as well. Sadly, there's no anime adaptation for this, which I assume some readers of this series do still deciding to have it or not. If you're an avid of this series, then you'll have to check this out. And finally, from Dracom Novels, The Skeletal Swordsman Dies. The Academy of Cursed Saints Music. This is somewhat a fantasy but in a really dark, yet twisted new story, which somewhat has me intrigued, since I do like something a little dark. Al, a young knight, has become an immortal monster due to a witch's curse. In a world 300 years in the future, he meets Estrantia, a girl descended from witches, and vows to become her knight in order to annihilate all of her curses. At Estrantia's request, he enrolls in an academy that trains saints who fight against curses, and lives his life hiding her true identity. It does no doubt look really grim and dark. No wonder the male character has that evil smile throughout every illustration, but there's something that bothers me a little: every one of them wears white. I do understand this is an academy, but do they wear all the time is something that needs to find out. It resembles a certain series I heard and I seen great things, where every of the character wears black. Assuming it follows this route, which I'm certain of it, I really do like to know where this heads next. My next new read for sure. Yes, this is the lineup for October 4th and beyond of the light novel releases. It does feels like getting intriguing, is it not? With so many ongoing series, there's plenty to choose and buy from. Do let me know in the comments below on which you did like to purchase. That's all for this video. Do subscribe to the channel for support. I would also be happy if you could another video. This is Takashi, signing off as I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.